Morning. I know it's recording. That way I don't forget to push record, but we have a couple minutes till people will start showing up here. So if you're watching the recording, just fast forward, just drag the little circle further till people get here. Actually, I can tell you what props we're going to use today. So I've got a lot of space. I actually have 2 mats set up because we're going to be rolling around and spending a lot of time on the floor. If you don't have 2 mats, that's totally fine. Just kind of clear some space for yourself. And then we'll also get something to roll with. And we're just going to do a little bit. I've got a massage ball here. It's a rubber ball. If you have a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, a golf ball could work. You can go find a ball, or you can just grab a marker or something, thicker than a pen or a pencil that will roll freely. So it doesn't have a little clippy thing. It's just going to roll freely. Or maybe a smaller can, like a can of tomato paste. That might work also. So go grab something that's rolly. Okay. So we're just going to do this just with the bottoms of our feet. So even a thick dowel, you could even grab a broom handle, like unscrew the handle off of a broom if you need to, or a ball of some kind. Okay. And while we wait to see if anyone comes today. Turn this to clock so I can see what time it is. Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll just start. We'll just go ahead and start. So this is a movement lab. We're talking about fascia today. And so we're going to just kind of experiment with feeling our fascia and really understanding what that is. Fascia is just kind of this web of connective tissue that connects everything in your body. It creates like little bags for muscles and organs. It compartmentalizes things, but it weaves around and through everything in our body. And for most of medical history, we just thought fascia, or humans just thought fascia was kind of an extra thing. It's made of collagen, just like our fingernails or our hair. And so not all of it is even living cells, right? It's just this matrix. And so it was usually in dissections just discarded and thrown away as just extra junk, right? It wasn't the good stuff. There was nothing interesting about it. It was just kind of filler that we could get rid of. And in cases, if you've ever fixed a chicken, right? It's that clear, filmy encasing around each of the muscles. But it also weaves its way through. So I grabbed this band just to kind of give a little bit of a demonstration. So imagine that we could imagine that each of my fingers is a muscle cell, and we can think about the muscle fascia. matrix. And so I've got this, and my yellow band is like the fascia, the webbing, the wrapping. So here, my pointer finger, I'm just going to wrap it with my connective band. And then I'll add and just wrap around my next finger. And then I'll add and just wrap around the next finger. And then I'll add and just wrap around the next finger. So, right, the fascia is a continuous web. Now I've got my thumb and my whole hand in it. And I'm just going to wrap all of this. And it distributes load from different parts of our body. So here I've got my muscle cells, each of my fingers all wrapped up. And if I move my pinky, right, I feel the tension on my pointer finger and my thumb. Okay, because this action is transferred through that web. Okay, so we can think of it like a fabric. So if I pull on the fabric of my shirt here, right, it affects the fabric up here. Okay, it's pulling that whole web. And so everything in our body is connected. The fascia wraps our muscles and then all turns into the tendon, right? The fascia wraps our bones and gathers and turns into ligaments. And it's thicker in some places than others. We have really thick, dense fascia in our lower back. We have really thick, dense fascia in between the muscles on our belly. We have really fat, thick fascia on the bottoms of our feet. We have really thick, the retinaculum around our wrist is thick fascia, really rich in nerve endings. And those places are for gathering information. Our fascia is super, this web-like thing, really rich in nerve endings. Hi, Amy. Let me just pin myself. So it's this webbing that's really rich in nerve endings and gives information to our nervous system and distributes that load to other parts of our body. So that's really important to understand, that the fascia isn't just the throwaway thing, right? It's actually the uniting organ through our body. We could even think of it as an organ. And I'm certainly not an expert, but it is something that we can really feel and experience. So we're just going to do a couple of experiments to start with. And before we totally get started, if you just joined, I've got something to roll my foot on. So I have a massage ball here, this rubbery ball. You could grab a tennis ball or a golf ball or any kind of ball. Or I've got a dry erase marker here. This will work just to be able to roll. It doesn't have a little clippy thing. It's a marker that doesn't have a clippy thing that will impede the freedom of rolling. Or you could grab a small can, like a can of tomato paste. So go grab something to roll if you don't have something handy. And I'll just talk a little bit more while you go and grab something. Our fascia is this woven web that really helps with our interoception and our proprioception. Now, those things are our ability to feel where our body is in space. That's proprioception. And Interoception is our ability to feel the inside of our body, to feel our body from the inside. So I just want to do a little bit of an experiment with those, with our interoception and our proprioception. And then we'll spend most of this hour moving, but we'll do a couple of experiments first. So I just want you to take your left hand and just start to massage your right hand. So you can think of that gelatinous webbing that's under your skin, wrapping all your muscles, that turns into tendons and ligaments as you just kind of slide your fingers around and just notice how your skin slides. Now that sliding motion happens because there's fascia. And fascia needs hydration. It gets hydration because we drink water, but also by mechanotransduction, where we're actually moving and sliding those tissues around. So move up to your wrist and just find some wringing out of your wrist and slide those tissues around. You can move up to your forearm, maybe just wring it out and feel how those tissues just slide on top of each other. That sliding happens because there's fascia in between the layers, weaving through those layers, that gooey gel-like substance that's also a fabric. Okay. You can do some circles on your elbow. And then wring out your arm, your upper arm. And work your way up to your shoulder. And then once you get up to your shoulder, just work your way back down. And just feeling all those tissues glide on that right arm as you massage it with your left hand. Work your way back down to your fingers. And then just release your hands to your lap and close your eyes. I just want you to notice the difference of the sensations from one side to the other. Notice what you can feel, how your right side feels compared to your left side. See if you can think of some words for left side and right side and their comparison. My right arm definitely feels more awake and alive and energized. My left side, I have a lot less access to really feeling it from the inside out. And so just go ahead and open your eyes after that. My computer's doing weird things. Okay, hopefully everything's okay. Right, but it takes some movement and some sensory input for us to actually find that interoception. So that's important, right? We need to move to feel. And the more that we can feel our body from the inside out, the more freedom and agency that we have, and the healthier our body will be. And we want to be able to feel all the different parts of our body. So we need to find different kinds of loads and movements for all the different parts of our bodies to keep them hydrated and healthy. What happens if our fascia is just stagnant is that it gets disorganized. We can think of it as these collagen fibers that could be all lined up. when they're not moved and manipulated, they just tangle and get all stuck and adhere to each other. So we need to find movement so that they can start to slide again. And then we can actually gain more nervous system access and ability to feel those parts of our bodies. And it all takes movement and experimenting to find what places feel tangled. Okay. Now I want you just to close your eyes and we'll play with some proprioception. So close your eyes and just bring your arms out wide and spread your fingers and then kind of hold an imaginary ball in each hand. And with these eyes, with your eyes closed, keep your eyes closed. Feel both of your arms in space. Just bring your hands toward each other and just let your fingertips touch in front of you. Can they come just exactly on top of each other or are they shifted a little bit? Try that a couple of times. Open wide. And then bring your hands back together, touching fingertips. And see if you can do it without having to shift your hand up and down. Just do it a couple more times. Just bringing your hands wide, holding those imaginary balls, and then bringing your fingertips together just to hold one imaginary ball in front of you. And notice if your right or your left arm is easier to feel in space as you do this after our little wake up massage. Okay. And that's just an experiment of feeling your body in space without seeing it, right? That's proprioception. And it's all those nerve endings throughout our fascia. I mean, we have nerve endings through our skin and our muscles, but it's the nerve endings between that's in our fascia that actually helps with proprioception. All right, let's come up to standing. And we're just gonna kind of check out a forward fold. So just stand comfortably with your feet parallel and a comfortable distance apart. You can soften through your knees and just find your standing forward fold and just check in with it here. So feel your feet on the floor. Just notice how your feet feel. Okay. Feel the bottoms of your feet, the backs of your heels. Feel your Achilles tendons, your calves, the backs of your knees, your hamstrings, your glutes. And notice the difference from one side to the other. If you feel a little different on your right than your left. And then feel that connection to your lower back. Notice where you feel tension or stretching in your lower back. And see if you can feel that travel up the rest of your back, up your neck, crown of your head. Notice the distance of your hands from the floor. Do you feel like it's easier to reach one hand to the floor than the other? All these things are just information I want you to notice and feel. And then just soften into your knees and roll yourself up to standing and find your implement that you're going to roll. And just roll it with one foot. We're just going to go slowly back and forward. So if you've got a ball, if you've got a can or a marker, I just want you to go forward all the way to your heel and back all the way toward your toes. And we're going to do this for a little while. Okay, so I have a video. I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to watch a little bit of a video while you just stand there and roll. So this is about biotensegrity, which is an important thing for us to understand. So it's by Tom Myers, Dr. Tom Myers.
It was my great good fortune to work and study with Mr. Fuller early in my life before I became a body worker.
All right. Well, I guess maybe that didn't work very well. But I don't know if you could see him. Amy, could you see him? And
Yes,
okay.
I could see him. I just couldn't understand what he was saying.
Okay. So he had that tensegrity model where you could see that it had all these dowels, and you can keep rolling with one foot. All these dowels connected with elastic, okay? And none of those hard dowels actually touched each other. And if he pushed on one part of the structure, there was feedback, maybe even all the way down in another part, okay? And we often think of our body as like this continuous compression structure where one thing is stacked on top of the other, like a building, right? But in reality, it's this system of tension. And the word that is used is biotensegrity, that really our bones are not connected bone to bone, right? We have these elastic connections all through our body, and our bones are more like those dowels in that model where they're floating. And the tension of our myofascial tissues, the muscles and the fascia, are what hold all of that together, okay? And so from one place to another, there's that chain of connection. So now you can stop rolling your foot, okay? And I want you to try again to do your forward fold. And just fold. And check in just like we did the first time. I want you to feel the difference from one foot to the other. Notice the side that you rolled versus the side that you didn't. And feel the back of your leg. Notice behind your ankle, behind your knee, the back of your thigh. Notice your glutes, your lower back. From one side to the other, just notice the difference. All the way up to your upper back, your neck, even to the back of your head. And just feel that for another breath or two, the difference from one side to the other. And then just bend into your knees and roll yourself up. I'm just gonna unmute. And I'll just put a link in the class description for this, the video, so you can watch it again, but hopefully I explained it enough. But could you tell a difference from one side to the other, Amy?
Yeah, and it was really interesting. Like, I put a little rock in my forward bend, and that was like, that's where I could feel the most. Like, my whole right side that I'd rolled felt more like the movement was way less jerky because it was so much more responsive and connected. It's interesting.
Is it so? Yeah, because we get that feedback, and our fascia is fluid, and we have these different fascial chains that connect from one part of our body to another. And there's several of them, and I'm not super good at remembering them all. But the one that we're going to work on today is just the back chain. So it starts with our fascial, like our plantar fascia. It goes all the way up our back, and the main connection is at the occipital ridge at the back of our head. And we could feel that. You could feel that. And it's this fluid responsiveness. So the stuff that happens in the bottom of our foot, that feedback is felt all throughout that whole part of our body, that whole back chain of our body. And we have, I mean, all of the chains are connected to each other, but the connections to themselves are definitely stronger. So as we move, we're just going to kind of roll around and move, and we'll feel the different fascial chains, and we'll primarily focus on the feedback on the back body and just feeling that. And then I'll put links to more resources in the class description if you want to come back to this later. But I'm going to move my props out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and just come onto our back. And I just want you to think of that fluid, viscous layer that weaves between like your skin and then all the cells and parts of your body. And come and just lay on your back and let your arms go out pretty wide. And just kind of feel yourself melt into the floor. And then from here, just kind of really dig your heels into your mat so that your skin kind of stays in place, and you can flex your feet and then point your feet and see if you can find that feedback of sliding your whole body on your mat. It's kind of your skin plate staying in place and the rest of your body kind of sliding here. The back of your head, the back of your pelvis, the back of your heart. And then you can start to get those a little bit faster rocks. Just kind of pointing and flexing, keeping your heels grounded exactly where they are, your hips grounded where they are, but then letting yourself just kind of slide. Get a little bit of a massage through that back body. Just do that for another breath or two. You can get faster. You could alternate legs if that works. For me, it just works with both of them. And then go ahead and pause. And we'll just bring our awareness to the right side. Just internally rotate. So think of this happening from the hip. Internally rotate your foot and then externally. So you're just kind of finding some rocking, shaking here. My cat is lonely. He's wrestling a stuffed animal and he wishes kids were up to play with him. So, and then you can kind of let those rocks get faster. Hopefully the meowing isn't too loud. We'll let those rocks get faster and you can kind of feel that tissue glide there. And then let your rocks go away, and we'll just slide your heel toward your bum, bend your knee, and then just let that leg rebound out. So it'll be a little sticky on your mat, but we're just going to kind of activate the back of that leg. Slide your heel in towards your bum and then push it away. And now we'll kind of add that internal and external rotation. So when your leg gets long, kind of internally rotate. So rock your toes toward the midline, bend your knee to slide your heel in, and then find your external rotation, let your knee drop out to the side and lengthen your leg back down. So we're kind of making a little bit of a circular motion. Internally rotate with your leg straight and then bend your knee in, externally rotate. Just kind of stir around this leg and hip. And then we'll just switch directions. So just bend your knee with your leg externally rotated, internally rotate, and then straighten your leg. And just do that 2 or 3 times. Externally rotate, then slide your heel in, internally rotate, slide your heel out. And then the next time your knee gets bent, just bring your knee to point at the ceiling, plant your foot on the floor, and then reach your arms overhead. Push into this right foot and just roll onto your left side and just kind of rock yourself. And then you can just roll yourself back and just do that a couple of times. So just think of just kind of massaging into those tissues on your side body. So push into that right foot to roll onto your left side and then come back. And we'll do that one last time. And then lengthen your right leg. Internally and externally rotate your left leg with it straight. We'll just stay there. You can move your arms any way that feels good and relaxing for you. Just bring that awareness to your leg. Internally, externally rotate. And then find a pause and just drag your heel in and slide it out. Just do that 2 or 3 times. Dragging that heel in and then sliding it out. And then we'll add that internal, external rotation. So with your legs straight, internally rotate, bend your knee to slide that heel up. When your knee's bent at the top, externally rotate, and then lengthen your leg back down. Internally rotate, bend your knee, drag that heel in, externally rotate, and push your heel away. And do that 1 or 2 more times in that direction. And just notice how the more you move, the more organized everything gets and the smoother and more fluid your movement can be. Okay, and then we'll switch directions. So externally rotate with your legs straight, drag that heel in to bend your knee, and then internally rotate at the top and push that leg away, your heel away. Externally rotate, bend and drag. Internally rotate and push your heel away. Let's do one more there. Full circle. And then bend your knee in. And then just plant your foot on the floor. Reach your arms overhead and we'll just find those rolls to the other side. So push into that left foot to lift that left hip and just roll onto your right side. And then you can roll back. And push into that foot. We'll just do that kind of rocking with 3 times. And then release. Now we'll kind of do some bigger rolls. I'm going to move into the middle of my space a little bit. Keep your arms overhead. And just bring that right knee into your chest. And this time just find some bigger circles. And go one direction 2 or 3 times. And then go the other direction 2 or 3 times. And just kind of feel that connection as you stir through those tissues. So when we're focusing on the fascia, it's kind of a whole body experience. Arms overhead, keep that knee, bring that knee into your chest, and then draw that knee over to the left and keep drawing it until it brings you all the way onto your belly and just let yourself flop onto your belly. And then bring your right arm out to the right or into a cactus. Let your head lift, look at your right hand. You can lead with your right arm to roll back onto your back. And then we'll do those on the left side. So find circles with that left knee, left hip. And switch directions. And then let that knee come up, arms overhead. Draw that knee over to your right. And then let the rest of your body follow. Roll onto your belly. You can lift your head a little bit. Bring your left arm to the left and then lift that left arm to roll yourself onto your back. Now we're just going to go back and forth a couple of times here. Bring that right knee in, over to your left, roll onto your belly. Take your right arm out to the right. You can lift your head, let your gaze follow your hand as it brings you back onto your back. Arms overhead, lift that left knee. Lead with that knee as you roll onto your belly. Left arm out to the left, lift your head, let your gaze follow that arm. And just notice that preparation we did. And as we do these a little more frequently, so let's do it one more time to each side. Lead with that leg. Your movement gets more fluid, right? Your tissues have been woken up, right? That interoception, that proprioception only happens when we actually move our bodies. All right. And this is all such good information to just let our body and our whole nervous system work in concert so that our muscles can engage reflexively and support us in the way that they need to. Hug your knees into your chest and we'll just start to roll. So first rock from side to side. And then really push your shins into your hands, hands into your shins, and you can start to rock and roll forward and back. And just bring yourself up to a seat. And then balance. Put your feet down on the floor and just let your arms come behind you. And from here, we'll just windshield wiper our knees from side to side. And let's see if you can open and then bring your internal rotation. So find your external rotation first of that moving leg and then let the other leg follow. So you can get as much range of motion there as possible. And we're just kind of still rocking, right? And gliding and massaging all those tissues. And you might start scooting forward on your mat. And that's totally normal and fine. All right. And then we'll find kind of our 90-90 over to the right. I just want you to take your right hand and plant it in front of your left. And you can use your of your right shin. And you can use your left hand to ground it if you want. But we're just going to start to find some circles of your elbow. And think of kind of stirring your elbow and rotating your elbow in all the directions and let this happen at your shoulder joint, but you can bend into your elbow, just kind of stirring it around and play with directions here. But it's these fluid movements that kind of help line up all those fibers of the collagen of our fascia and kind of help the fluidity to let it all glide and slide. So you can start to maybe bring more weight onto your wrist by rocking onto your shins a little bit if that feels okay. Right, but so this information we have a really thick layer of fascia around our wrist. And the feedback from the pinky edge of our hand and this retinaculum around our wrist goes up the outer arm, up our tricep, all the way down our latissimus dorsi fascia and connects down to the tailbone, to your sacrum. And so, right, when we move our arms in the front of our body, we're actually using our back body. Okay, after you've done those little stirs for a few times, let's just sit back and shake that out. And then switch sides. Just find your your 90-90 to the left and bring your left hand down. Just switch. And you can ground that hand with your right hand if that will help you. Or just have a place to put your hand. But bend into your elbow, find some internal and external rotation with that shoulder. You can kind of switch directions, just kind of fluid stirring motion here. You can experiment with where the weight is in your hand. Maybe rock forward and load a little more here. Just in all sorts of different directions, just kind of loading your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder in a really fluid way, stirring things around. And then sit back in your 90-90. And since we're going to the left, we're just going to turn to our left and find a little bit of a twist. Ground your hands and then find a little push up. And then push into your hands and just find some bouncy buoyance. So just pushing your hands away. Okay, we're going to switch sides. So just switch the direction of your legs, twist all the way to your right, and find your push up here a little bit, a couple of times. And then push the floor away. Bounce. Okay. And then we'll switch. We're just going to go back and forth and bounce. Swim around and bounce. Back and forth. You might walk forward. That's fine. And then we're going to roll into a table. So just find yourself in a table. And I want you to just kind of find that bouncing here again and feel the feedback through your hands. Now, if we use that whole nervous system feedback loop and kind of rely on our fascia and our muscles to give us stability and integrity in our hands, we'll probably have a little more weight on the pinky edge of our hands. So I just want you to land and try that. See if you can feel a sense of arches, like your feet have arches. Find some arches in your hands. Okay, and notice the feedback from that lateral edge of your hand up your back. Okay, and now spread your fingers and put more weight onto that thumb edge and just notice the difference there. Now what happens on our pinky edge, this is where our bone on our ulna is smaller down here, and then it's bigger in our elbow. So we actually use the connective tissue information more to stabilize our wrist, but that gives feedback all the way. When we push down onto the radial side, onto your thumb side, that's where the muscle is, I mean, the bone is bigger at your wrist. And you can kind of feel that really rigid bone stacking there. And that's stable too. They're just stable in different ways, okay? So when we rely on that connective tissue of our fascia, we get more feedback through our whole body. And so that's just interesting to notice and feel. And so as you move through your poses and your weight bearing on your hands, you can kind of play with where you feel the most feedback through the rest of your body, where it turns on the intelligence of your whole body, or whether you're just kind of bone stacking in a rigid way. Let's find a couple of rounds of cat and cow here and see if you can move one vertebrae at a time. So go pretty slow. You might do a couple where you initiate the movement from your tailbone. And then where you initiate the movement from the top of your head. And so that tensegrity, we can think of like all of the little tendons and muscles through our spinous processes actually create this like tension sculpture where things are actually suspended. Our spine can all be suspended. And so if all of those muscles are working, there's actually no compression on the discs between our vertebrae if we're using the whole tensegrity model of our spine. If we're just hinging in one place, that's where we get pressure on our discs. So that's why these sequential movements like on bridge and in cat-cow are really actually so important. Even though they kind of seem elementary, they really help the integrity of our spine because they hook up our nervous system to be able to move each of those places. Let's add some hip stuff. So just let your right leg float and find some extension through your front of your hip, but see if you can keep your belly contained so you're not using your lower back. And then bring that knee out to the side, and we're gonna plant that foot outside the right hand, okay? And then find some cat and cow movement here with your foot outside of your hand. Okay, and then see if you can use that strength to lift that right foot up, out to the side again, and then float that knee down, and we'll switch. Float your left leg up, bring that knee out to the side, and then step that foot outside your left hand and find some cat and cow here. And then float that left foot up, lengthen that heel toward the ceiling, and then float down. Okay, let's add on to that. So float your right up, knee out to the side, step that foot outside your hand, find a little cat and cow. And then just float your right arm forward and then bring it down. Float your left arm forward and then bring it down. Feel strong through your feet and just float both arms forward. And then come upright and then just find a big open arm twist to your right. Swim your arms back around, reach high, and bring your hands back down. And then lift that right foot up, out to the side, and then knee to the floor. And we'll do that same thing on the other side. Float that left knee up, and then bring your knee out to the side. Plant your foot outside your hand, and find a little bit of cat and cow movement here. So you're feeling that connection from the back of your head, right, to the back of your leg, all the way to the back of your heel and your foot. All right, find a neutral spine and then just float your left arm forward, straight forward. And keep the back of your neck neutral, and then lower that left hand down, switch. Right arm forward. And lower that right hand down. Feel your foundation through your legs, and then just float both arms forward, and then reach up. Left arm back, right arm forward, big open twist. And then swim around. Reach your arms high. And then exhale those hands in between your feet. And now we're gonna find a downward facing dog. So start from table. Feel the feedback through your hands. Feel strong through your shoulders. Got some external rotation here. And then float your hips up and back. Pedal it out. And then see if you can feel that connection from that pinky edge of your hand all the way up your tricep, and your sides of your body. And maybe find some movement in your pelvis and see if you can feel that connection from your pinky edge of your hand to your sacrum. And then feel that connection from your soles of your feet up the backs of your legs. And let your head hang heavy. You might even just shake your head no, nod your head yes. Right, so when we're moving one part of our body, it's not an isolated experience, right? That has a ripple effect. And so our goal is just to find balance by moving all parts of our bodies so all the other parts get stimulated in really healthy, sustainable ways. And so maybe find some other movement here. In your dog, you can rock forward to a plank and then hover your knees and push back. But just anything fluid here in your downward facing dog. And then bring your knees to the floor and rest in a child's pose. And ground your forehead and just feel that aliveness through your whole body. And so it's helpful to break down and think about parts. It helps us wrap our minds around what's happening. It really helps us learn in detail. But nothing happens in isolation. The parts always affect the whole. Let's walk our hands in towards our knees. Just tuck your toes and we'll come into a low squat, into Malasana. You can rock from side to side. And this is another fun pose to kind of experiment with that foot rolling, right? You can just roll one side and then try your squat and just see the difference in your hip and everything. But let's just rock a little bit from side to side. Right, and we haven't done anything really strenuous or, I'm not sweating. But, right, we've really woken up that whole back chain of our body. And movement feels a little more fluid and free. Bring your left hand to the floor and just reach your right arm up into a twist. And then you can lift your hips, bring your right leg towards straight, maybe stay bent. So just a twisted forward fold. And then we'll come back down into our squat and just switch sides. Right arm down, find that twist open with your left, and then lift your hips. You can come towards straight with that left leg. And let's just go back and forth here in a really fluid way. Just kind of feeling that chain through your whole back body. One more time on each side. Next time you come down after your left side, just bring your bum to the floor and scoot your way to the middle of your space. And we'll just come all the way onto our backs. So just roll yourself down. Knees bent. And then just let your knees come into your chest. Rock your knees over to the right. And then you're going to bring your legs towards straight and just roll flat onto your back. Drag your heels in to bring your knees up into your chest. And then rock your knees over to your left. And then just straighten your legs and roll back onto your back. So we're just kind of making this figure 8 with our knees. Slide your knees into your chest, knees to the right. Bring your legs towards straight as you rock onto your pelvis, the back of your pelvis. And then drag those knees back in, over to your left. Stir your legs to straight. Just do one more time on each side. Actually, let's do it one more time and let your head get involved. So knees up into your chest, drop your knees to the right, look to your left, and then let your legs come straight and then find your kind of equalized laying on your back. Knees to your chest, drop your knees to the left, look to the right, and then straighten your legs out and rock onto your back. Knees into your chest, and then we'll stay in our twist with the knees to the right. Arms out to a T. Then you'll take your left arm and just let the back of your hand stay on the floor. Sweep it overhead. You're going to find this half moon until your left hand comes to your right hand. Now really slide that left arm away from you. You can lift your head and then look over your right shoulder. So you're going to lift that ear off and reach. And then untwist your head, sweep that left arm up and over, roll back onto your back, and find your twist to the left. So knees to the left, arms open, you can look to your right. And then find that half moon, sweep around with your right arm. So you're gonna just drag the back of your hand, it'll come up overhead, swim all the way to meet your left hand. And then you can push that right arm away from you, lift your head and look over your left shoulder. And look back behind you. And then unwind, let your head come to the floor. Sweep that right arm up and out, come onto your back. Let's do that one more time on each side. So knees to the right. You can look to your left briefly. Let your gaze kind of follow your hand. So we'll sweep that hand overhead and around till your left hand comes on top of your right. Slide that left arm away from you, lift your head, look back. And then unwind your head, swim that left arm up and out. Knees to center and then over to the left. Look to your right. Swim that arm up and around. Stack your hands. Slide that right arm even further away. Lift your head, look back over your left shoulder. And then unwind that. Circle that arm back and then come onto your back. Just stir your knees in circles one direction and then the other. And plant your feet. We'll just find 3 waves of our spine in a sequential bridge. So really think about lifting one vertebrae at a time. And you don't need to come up super high. Lift your tailbone, push those lower back vertebrae into the floor, and then lower vertebrae, middle vertebrae, upper vertebrae, and then lower. See if you can really do it one at a time. And just do your last ones at your own pace. You can come to the height that you want to, but we're really just kind of focusing more on fluid movement that has that ripple effect through the whole rest of our body. Let yourself lower down slowly on your last one. Let your knees fall apart, feet together. Just bring one hand to your belly, one to your heart, and you can breathe there for 2 breaths. And then release your arms, just let your legs go long. Find that comfortable kind of spread eagle Shavasana position. And just end with what we started with. Really ground your heels and rock your feet. So you kind of feel that slide of your whole body. And you can let it get faster and really rock yourself. Maybe really feel that in the back of your head, in the back of your rib cage, the back of your pelvis, your calves, your heels, the backs of your arms. And then pause and just let yourself find some internal, external rotation of your legs. You can wiggle your hips. And you might even just kind of shift your bum. You can kind of flex and like alternately flex each of your bum cheeks. So that just kind of creates some rocking. Let your head rock. You can find a little bit of rocking in your shoulders and your arms and sliding. Just kind of let yourself slide and wiggle, just feeling all those tissues slide on your back body. And shake, shake. And then let those shakes get smaller until you can just be still. And just notice the quality of the energy in your body after all of that sliding and shaking. And that waking up of all of those tissues, right? That's your ability to feel from the inside out. And that only happens when there's load and movement. Right? So we need to move to feel. And when we can feel, then we have more agency to have intention, to notice what's tight, what needs more awakening, where things might be tangled, or we might not have as much access, right? But that gives us the power. But it's that movement that actually gives us the ability to feel. And it's the feeling that gives us the ability to grow. Go ahead and get out any wiggles you want, or we'll come up to a seat. Push yourself up. So I hope that that was fun and informative for you. I hope you were able to feel free to ask me any questions. If you're watching this recording, email me things. I'd love to know your insights. I'll put the link to the video that I tried to share so that hopefully you actually can hear what he's saying, and that will be more helpful. But the divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Namaste.